A script is more than just a story. It's a technical blueprint, and if formatted wrong, it's unreadable to a professional crew. In the industry, one page equals 1 minute of screen time. If your formatting is off, your timing is off, and your budget is blown. Welcome back to The Art of Filmmaking. Last time, we talked to a pro. Today, I'm showing you how to write like one. Let's break down the 5 elements every script needs to look professional. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about scripts, like I said in the intro to this video. I do apologize if I look down, my notes are on an iPad at the bottom of my desk, so it's just kind of how it worked out. But the first thing that we're going to talk about is the hook. So what I mean by that is writing isn't just words on a piece of paper, right? It's a technical manual for the film crew, and that can be the actors, the technicians, the director, the producer. Everybody uses the script in different ways, so it's important that you write it in the correct way so that everyone can understand it. So the first thing that we're going to get into, once we start getting into our first section here, is interior, exterior, location, time, and then some visual tips. But first, let's talk about the why. So why does formatting matter? Formatting matters because if a script looks unprofessional, it often gets read wrong. And that means that the industry won't really accept it. So if you submit your script to a production office and they look at it and it's not formatted correctly, they won't even open it. They forget about it and throw it away. And it's important that you format your script correctly because we have a, in the industry, there's a 1 minute per page rule. So one page of your script should equal about 1 minute. And that's how the director and producers can tell how long the movie's going to be before they ever make it. So they can base a budget off that, or base a crew off that, or base shooting schedules off that. So it's important that everything is formatted correctly. One thing that I would say is the tool that you use to make your script really does matter. And what I mean by that is the software in which you use. There's some really good softwares out there, like I know Final Draft, Writer Duet, or Celtics. Hell, even Studio Binder's pretty good for writing. Some do cost money, some don't cost money. Studio Binder, I know, has a free version that's very, very restricted. Personally, I use Studio Binder. I have the indie film version of Studio Binder, which allows one person for the crew, and I would be that one person. But again, writing software really does matter because standard word processors like Google Docs don't necessarily have the correct margins for film, but today I'm going to be showing you how to format it the best that you possibly can inside of Google Docs. So we won't be getting into really professional software like Final Draft or Writer Duet or Celtics or Studio Binder. We're just going to be doing it right in Google Docs because I know that's what everyone has, and it's completely free, and it's really quite simple to use. And you can still format a script in Google Docs. You just probably can't submit it to a production office and they look at it because I know Google Docs is very kind of restricted when it comes to film scripts. Okay, so now we're going to get into section 1, the scene heading, aka the slug line. So what is the purpose of the slug line? Well, let me tell you. It is to tell the crew where and when the scene takes place. So there are 3 parts to a slug line. That would be the interior, exterior, that would be the location, and the time. Now, let me show you where that slug line is. Let's go ahead and pull up our script here. This is going to be your slug line right here. That is going to be your slug line in orange right there. You have your interior, exterior, which is abbreviated INT or EXT, and you always put a period after that because if you put a dash, it doesn't really quite make sense. Because it doesn't go along with classroom or day or anything like that. And as a matter of fact, this should be INT because it is in a classroom. So that's a correction that I had to make there. So interior, classroom, day. This is showing the location, the classroom right there, and this is showing the time. So this can say anything from late at night to midday to early morning to early evening. Just don't specify the literal time. Like, don't say 9:21 p.m. Like, that doesn't matter. So make sure you just write day, night, midday, kind of whatever. And don't write literal days as well. Like, don't write Tuesday. because that doesn't make any sense at all. So just use the time of day, per se, a lot of rhyming right there, to tell your crew where and when this scene is happening. And the reason you use interior, exterior is because lighting is something that is very different whenever you're inside and outside. So not only does that help people kind of see where they can place lights or how they're going to need lights or what lights they're even going to need, but it can also help with sound design because different microphones pick up different audio. For instance, I'm on a Tonor TD510, and this is just a very standard recording microphone for voiceovers and talking head videos like this one is. But some boom mics record differently if they're inside or outside, so it's important to specify where this is going to be, either inside or outside, so that the right equipment can be attained. Okay, so now that we've covered the slug line, which was the interior, exterior, location, and time, the visual tip that I have for you is to show a line like interior diner night, as an example, across the screen. Use it in Courier font, so Courier New. This is what all of this is Courier New. If we scroll down, it's all just Courier New. And here, let me go ahead and get rid of this watermark for you guys. Sorry, I was sending out the script to a couple people, and I always put a watermark on my scripts, but this is a decommissioned script, so I'm not worried about copyright anymore. So this isn't a script that I actually went with. This is a really, really old version of a script that I had at one point, and I didn't end up making this film, but I do think I want to end up making this film, so I don't know. I'll let you guys know later. So always use Courier New font, and this is how you find that. So it's in my brand new one right here. It's in my recents, but Courier New is always right here. So always pick Courier New whenever you're writing a script because that is the industry standard, and make sure it's 12-point Courier New. And what I mean by that is this right here. Make sure this is set to 12. For Google Docs, though, I always use 11. And here's why. Because 12-point Courier New on a Google Docs form takes up a lot of space. And sometimes that kind of messes with your 1 minute per page rule. So I use 11-point font for Google Docs, but I always use Courier New. So always use Courier New, guys, because that's what all the pro softwares use as well. So be sure to do that. All right, now we're going to move on to section 2, and that is going to be action lines. All right, so what is an action line? An action line, the purpose of an action line is to describe what is happening in the scene. Now, this isn't dialogue, and it's not a slug line. It's also not a parenthetical, but I'll explain what that is later. It's just essentially words that are lined across the script that tell the person reading the script what is happening. So an action line, make sure your action lines are always said in present tense, because if they're said in past tense, it just doesn't read well because the script hasn't happened yet, and it hasn't happened yet, and it isn't going to happen, if that makes sense. I don't really know how to corroborate that, but the script is happening in real time. No matter when you're reading it, that is what is happening. So you want to make sure that it's in present tense and not past tense. For example, we have open on right here. This is going to be one of our action lines. This says open on, a pencil rolling slowly across a desk. It stops. Silence. If that says a pencil rolled slowly across the desk, it stopped. It went silent. That doesn't really read well. That doesn't get the tension that we're trying to express across to the person reading it. So if we read it as a pencil rolling slowly across a desk, it stops. Silence. That is how somebody would read that because that's how it's said with present tense. But if it was in past tense, like I said, it would be a pencil rolled slowly across a desk. It stopped and then it went silent. That's just like, yeah, this is what it did. Cool, go with that. But if we have it in present tense, it really does explain that tension to the person reading the script. Okay, so so this is the one of the hardest things I think to get across to someone just getting out with screenwriting. It is to write only in your action lines visuals, and that's since you're writing, it's kind of hard to corroborate visuals to a person. So it takes a little bit of getting used to. So what I mean by that is don't write what a character is thinking. So don't write James saw a blue shirt on Amy. James was thinking that that blue shirt was really amazing, and Amy looked really good in that blue shirt. That's so annoying. Don't write that. So let the audience see it and not hear it, and this goes along with the show don't tell rule. That is kind of a very important rule that you need to follow in filmmaking is show don't tell, because if you show something, the audience is going to be more intertwined in that. They're going to be more, ooh, I want to know more. I want to see what's happening, instead of you just writing a paragraph telling everyone what's happening, because filmmaking is all about interpretation. And if you don't allow the audience to interpret your film, it's not going to be a very good film. So always use visuals only. Okay, so now we're going to talk about character intros, and this still goes along with our section 2 for action lines. Character intros. This is kind of confusing sometimes, but not really. So the first time a character appears in the script, you always capitalize their name. And no, that does not mean when they appear for the first dialogue line. Oh, that's not the dialogue line. Hold on. And that doesn't mean the dialogue line that they appear in. That means the action line where they appear. So right here, Ben appears in one of our action lines. And this is capitalized. But if you'll notice, every other time we mention Ben in an action line, it isn't capitalized. So if we, right here, since we're saying close up on Ben, he's vibrating. A single drop of sweat hangs off his nose. We had to capitalize his name so that the audience, or not the audience, so that the crew reading it knows, yep, that's a character. That's not like a bin or per se a typo. That is the character's name. And that's pretty much the only thing you would capitalize, put in all caps at least, in your action lines. Sometimes I put in like my close-ups or open on, things like that in all caps, but mainly you're only supposed to do it with a character's name. And we did that with Chloe here as well. We capitalized her name right there in all caps so that the crew or the actor reading it can know that that is their character. And as you can see, this goes along with our show don't tell rule, these action lines here. We have Ben, he's vibrating. A single drop of sweat hangs off his nose. Close up on Chloe. She's a gargoyle. Behind her, the classroom window shows a bird flying by in slow motion. She doesn't flinch. That is, it sets the tension in the scene and allows for interpretation of the audience. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and get into section 3, and this is going to be character names and dialogue. All right, so character names and dialogue. So like I said, with to go along with our section 2, our action lines, the characters' names always, the first time they appear in the script, always capitalize them. So yeah, make sure they are in all caps or indented toward the center. So you can either capitalize them or indent them. I typically like to capitalize them just because indentions are a little weird for me to read, because I don't use indentions for names. I use indentions for emotions, like in parentheticals. I didn't do it for this script, but I don't really use italics for that. So next, the thing that we're going to talk about is dialogue. Okay, so this section right here that we have highlighted in light pink is an entire dialogue section, if you will, of the script. And it's quite a large chunk of the page, because we only have about 3 dialogue lines on this page particularly, and then the rest is action lines and slugs. So how do you write an action line? Well, let me tell you. You always put the character's name in all caps in the middle of the page, so straight down center. And if it's a voiceover, put next to their name V.O. and put those in parentheses, so that way you know that that is a voiceover. And how I intended this to be was I wanted to see the characters, and then I wanted to also hear their thoughts. So this is a line in which we see Ben, but we don't hear him or we don't see him speaking, but we hear him speaking, and that's because these are his thoughts. And then we have our parenthetical right here. And you always put that indented 1 under the name and 1 above the actual dialogue. And you put it more towards the left side of the page. So about 2 tabs over from the left side of the page here. That's where you typically put your parenthetical. And that always goes in parentheses, thus parenthetical. And this just kind of tells the actor how to deliver that line. And it also shows the director, whenever they're directing, that if they don't follow the parenthetical, there's some notes to give there. So I didn't want to use echoing reverb for this one. So if you didn't want to do that, just go ahead and cross it out with like a red mark. I'm not going to bother even trying to do that because this isn't a script that I'm using anymore. So deep echoing reverb. And then after the parenthetical, we have the actual dialogue itself. So this would be our dialogue right here. This little section in pink right here. These about 2, 4, 5-ish sentences. All right, so let's go ahead and read this how I want it to come across. Day 43. My corneas are screaming. The air conditioning is a cruel mistress blowing directly into my soul. If I blink, the empire falls. And that is how we would read that based off of the parenthetical. So we wanted it to be deep, not day 43. My corneas are screaming. The air conditioning is a cool mistress blowing directly into my soul. And if I blink, the empire falls. No, that's why we have parentheticals, because it tells the actor how to deliver their line, how the director wanted them to deliver their line. My advice to you is to use parentheticals sparingly. So don't be too specific in your parenthetical. Let the actor have fun with their character. Even though you wrote the character, the actor is the one playing the character, therefore they need to be comfortable in that character, therefore they need to have their own interpretation of that character. And if you tell them every single step of the way, this is what you're doing, this is what you're going to do, this is how you're going to do it, they're not going to want to play that character, and the character isn't going to feel natural. So use your parenthetical sparingly, and be very vague, and let them decide how they want to play their character. Which is why this right here is kind of like a post-production note, echoing reverb. Like, if you can do that with your actual voice, holy moly, that's insane. But that's really just a post-production note for me. I wanted this line to be deep, and I was very, very vague, just deep, you know? And I want to let the actor kind of decide how to do that. All right, now we're going to be moving on to section 4, and this is going to be transitions. All right, so transitions. What is the purpose of a transition? Well, the purpose of a transition is to show how we move from one scene to the next. And common terms for that would be like cut to, or fade out, or dissolve to. And I have one on this page right here. I have a fade to black on this page here at the very, very bottom. Let me highlight that for you guys. I have a fade to black all the way down there. And so the note that I would have for transitions in modern spec scripts, scripts written to be sold essentially, transitions are used less often unless they are essential to the story's rhythm. So if you're trying to sell your script, I wouldn't use transitions, because that kind of goes back to our parenthetical thing. If you're selling your script, you're no longer in charge of the script, so you want the person who currently owns the script to have their own creative freedom with that. And in order to do that, you want to not really use transitions as much. You can still totally use them, but not as much if you're trying to sell it. So transitions, like I said, they're used to help you decide how you want to transition your scenes. So this is a scene right here that I wanted to fade to black. Actually, this is the end of it. So what I did was, actually, when I rewrote this, I added a scene after this. I got through kind of writing all this, and I didn't like where it came to be, so I said fade to black here, and that was what I left it as. I don't know if that was going to be the end of it yet, or if that was going to kind of be a continuation. So using fade to black in this scenario allows me the creative freedom to keep writing the story. So there's not really much to say about transitions. It's just really how you feel that the transition should be to the next scene. If you want it to be dramatic and just like a snap cut, or you want it to be a little more intimate, so a fade, or a soft dissolve, or maybe you want to get fancy with it and do something like pull like a Star Wars and do like a swirly thing. You could totally do that. But really, there isn't anything to say about transitions. It's really just up to you. It's your creative freedom at work. And that is what a screenplay is it's your creative thinking and your creative writing put into a page, put into a Word document that allows your story to be told way up to par. So it really just depends on how you want to write your film. All right, guys, so this is going to be the conclusion to the video. So we're going to stop the video by talking about the language of film. So I wanted to remind you guys that formatting isn't about being strict. It's about communication, allowing everyone to be able to read your script and understand what you're writing and where you're coming from is the ultimate goal to writing, is the ultimate goal to screenwriting. One thing that I wanted to ask you guys is, what do you want to see next in my Art of Filmmaking series? So this is going to be episode 2 of my Art of Filmmaking series, and I want to know what you guys want to see next, because we already covered the production process, essentially, pre-production, production, and post-production in my last video. So if you guys haven't watched that, go check it out. I'll have it linked in the description. But I want to know what you guys want to see next, because we've already covered this. I know I've covered a little bit about DaVinci Resolve, but let me know in the comments what you guys want to see next. Again, guys, thank you so much for watching. Go grab a camera, go shoot something, go have some fun, and I will see you all in the next video. Thank you so much.